Hey friends, just this week we saw the Southern Poverty Law Center, a group that's dedicated to stamping out hate, actually caught red-handed funding legitimate hate groups so that they could highlight these groups and perpetuate their own existence. I mean, it's crazy. It's like funding the enemy to justify the existence of your own organization. Fortunately, justice is starting to happen. We also saw the third assassination attempt against our president. So we're going to talk about, again, the violent language and just the violence of the left. The Democrats have become the party of violence. And we're going to talk about all of that and how do we move forward into returning to a place of civility in our public discourse. Important issues we'll address on our podcast today.
Hey, welcome to the Ron Johnson Discipleship Podcast.
Man, we're so excited to be with you guys today. So much going on, so much to talk about, and so much to talk about here at Living Stones as well. So let's jump into it, my friend.
Yeah, 1 week, right?
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it?
Just 1 week, a lot going on.
By the way, we are recording this later than normal, and it's amazing. We were just talking about how 2 days in the news cycle nowadays is like crazy. Lots more has happened, and so anyway, we'll jump into that.
Yeah, well, first of all, lots happening here in Livingstone.
Yes, it is. Yeah, Matthew and I just got back. As some of you knew, we were headed out with a team. I think there was 4 of us that went out to the TPUSA event that was held in Texas, Dallas-Fort Worth area.
It was for pastors, right?
For pastors, yes. And that was, from what Lucas Miles, the director of TPUSA Faith, said, that was the largest pastors gathering that they've hosted. I think there was right around 1,500 pastors.
Wow.
And it was just great. You know, the message of the hour is also a message that's resonating with what we preach a lot around here. And that message is keep the main thing the main thing. You know, Lucas has been really emphasizing how do you get this diverse room filled with pastors from various denominational backgrounds all together and all unified around a cause, and that cause being the cause of truth, the cause of righteousness, standing up for righteousness in our culture, and seeing reformation and revival happen, you know. And he just does a really good job of not watering down in some type of false ecumenicalism, you know, but keeping the central points, you know, at the center and making sure that we're working together. We don't have the luxury of having little in-house, you know, squabbles on things that at the end of the day are not big issues, you know. So it was just really, really good. Of course, we heard some amazing speakers that are out doing it, and it was good for me. You know, Erica Kirk does not speak at a lot of the events now, unfortunately. Of course, the threats that are on her life and her family, and some of the cruel things that have been said about her. But she spoke that night, and just was very, very powerful and very sobering, coming from a woman who, you know, has had her husband murdered and her whole life and family turned upside down. You know, it kind of put a bit of weightiness on what it is that we're doing, you know, and what's at stake. Yeah. So I'm very, very excited about that. And just a little quick plug here. On July the 7th, Living Stones is one of, I think, only 28 or 29 churches across the United States that are hosting this Make Heaven Crowded tour. We do have a couple confirmed speakers. I know TPUSA likes to keep some of that close to their chest, just unfortunately for security reasons. Yeah. But we've got 2 amazing speakers. That's all I'll say at this point that are confirmed so far. I think there's going to be 4 or 5 total. But the whole focus of that night is evangelism. So I really want to encourage our people, hey, let's invite folks out. I want to get our young adults and our youth ministry super engaged, because that's really the target audience for this night, is seeing young people come to know Christ. So it's not a political event. It is an evangelistic outreach, and again, I'm honored that we have a chance to host it. Yeah. We also are going to be breaking ground here pretty soon. Why don't you talk a little bit about some of the behind-the-scenes stuff going on there? Because there's been a lot of work happening, even though we haven't been out there with any shovels, busting the dirt up yet.
Well, talking with insurance company, talking with our builders, doing design behind the scenes, getting our estimates, getting our bids ready.
Picking out paint colors and every other kind of crazy thing.
And the operational director, Lauren's been doing an awesome job getting
Yes.
all that knocked out. So
Yes. So, I know we have a meeting right after this podcast, but do we have any time set for when people will actually be breaking ground? I know that's been kind of a moving target, but I know for sure by the end of May, and we're knocking on May's door. So
that's our target, and that's what we're aiming for. You know, I don't know if we got any specific dates yet, but we're hustling to make sure that all the I's are dotted and T's are crossed. You know, from our bank, talking to the bank a lot, and make sure.
Yeah, if you haven't been involved in the building and trades and being on any kind of big projects like this, it's just amazing to me that from the moment you say, yes, we need a new youth room or we need a new sanctuary, the amount of red tape and paperwork and details and budgets and all of that kind of stuff, banking issues. I mean, it is mind-boggling. And I've gone through this now 2 times. This is our 3rd rodeo. And so I realize when, time is of the essence. And the sooner you get started, the better. And, so I'm grateful we jumped in right away. But it's crazy. We've just come upon our 1-year anniversary, as you know, from the Arise campaign. This coming Sunday is going to be our Commitment Sunday, and we're asking everybody that is brand new to pray, to listen to the Holy Spirit, and to step out in faith if the Lord speaks, and and join us. And I've been praying. I just prayed this morning that there'd be many, many answers to prayer, great financial breakthroughs, because these are the things that build our faith for the next challenge, for the next purchase of land, or the next building that we'll be doing as we continue to grow and continue to reach people with Christ, with the good news of Jesus Christ. So very, very excited about that. So Commitment Sunday, and we're encouraging everybody to pray about your current commitment, if you're going to continue moving forward for the next 2 years, and if God's already met those needs, that you would pray and say, all right, Lord, I'm going to jump back in for the next 2 years and see what He's going to do. So anyway, exciting times. And then, as we just mentioned, the ground will be broken, the foundations will be poured, all the concrete and all the walls and all that kind of stuff will start emerging here, and that's an exciting time. So awesome. Let's jump into some of the hot topics. One of these being the Southern Poverty Law Center, SPLC, which I got to know them through Tony Perkins. Because
not like it's a buddy.
Exactly. The name sounds so good. I think this group was originally started to work against hate crimes and stuff like that. It's supposed to be like a civil rights type of a group. Well, it has morphed into anything but that. I knew they were problematic when I noticed that all the people that were getting put on their list were all of my friends. I mean, it was like the Tony Perkins Group Family Research Council. It was Alliance Defending Freedom, the wonderful organization that protects our First Amendment rights. It was focused on the family. And of course, groups like Turning Point USA, these were identified as hate groups. And then the leverage that they had is if I identify you as a hate group or your organization, then I'm going to go to all these groups that used to support you or that maybe even worked with you, like to provide banking services. And all of a sudden they're coming to you now and saying, oh, Andrew, your organization has been deemed a hate crime group, so we cannot, bank with you any longer. And so these people were being deplatformed, and all kinds of terrible things were happening.
It's a brilliant business plan if you think about it. To me, it's kind of like the Oscars award. Okay, it's like, well, I'm going to make you the best movie. Well, who says? Well, is this committee of people? What committee of people? Well, we created a committee of people to decide who's the best picture, and then we're going and from that we're going to raise funds, and we're going to be famous because of that. It's all like circular logic, and that's what kind of SPLC does. Is they're like, well, we'll designate you as a hate group. Well, who says? Well, bunch of experts created that. It's like, but you're saying they're a hate group based on your own authority. It's just a circular idea. But they just keep raising funds, and they're able to say whatever they want without any accountability, right?
Yeah, and I love what you said, because we have to get back to the question of who says. Who gave you the authority to?
Why are you the expert in this?
Yeah, how come you're all of a sudden the expert to make designations about other organizations and what their intent is and call them hate crimes or whatever?
Right, and circular. So. Well, who says I said? Well, but you're biased. Well, it doesn't matter because I said it.
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
And
the irony of this, though, was this all came out back when there was that. Was it the BLM or was some type of group that was? It was in Virginia.
The Charlottesville thing.
Yeah, and so supposedly an alt-right group showed up. I forget the name of that group, but what we're finding out now, because Trump basically said, "Hey, there's evil people on both sides. Quit demonizing," and they took him to task for that. But the whole thing was a setup, because the Southern Poverty Law Group was taking their funds, actually giving them to these groups and having those groups show up and paying them to show up to create conflict, to create racism, the very thing their group exists to stamp out. Mm-hmm. So they're taking the money. They're actually, like, imagine paying the KKK to come and to protest against, Black America, and then to come out and say, "Hey, we're identifying it and we're trying to stamp out racism." Well, you're actually paying for racism. You're paying for these people to show up. You're paying for these people to be racist. So that you can then stamp out the very thing that you are actually fostering. I mean, it's ludicrous, but that's exactly what they were doing, and it's all been exposed.
Well, my understanding is that Charlottesville event, I remember vividly. Charlottesville is Virginia. It's where University of Virginia is. My wife and my sister both went to UVA.
Yep.
I'm very familiar with that area. Charlottesville is very liberal. When Trump made that statement, I think he said, there's good people on both sides. People took it like, oh, he's endorsing racism. My understanding is that statement he was making was concerning that there's good people on both sides arguing about taking down statues of, of people in the past. Like, Robert E. Lee, which I grew up with his statue all over Monument Avenue, Virginia. I never thought about it, right?
And Robert E. Lee was a tremendous leader, a very godly man, but because he was on the side of the Confederates. And even there, they don't go into the depth of the nuance of all that was going on in the Civil War. They just...
everyone who was a slave owner just tear down statue. And what Trump was saying, there's good people on both sides on that side of the argument about the statue, not talking about like the KKK and whatever, but taking out context, whatever it is, right?
Right.
But it was also from the Charlottesville event that Mr. Joe Biden apparently was like, oh, I see this, how bad this is. I'm going to throw my hat in the ring to...
Trump's a racist.
I'm going to start running for president. I mean, it's just this cascade. But so the SPLC was just recently indicted in 11 federal counts.
Yay!
By the Department of Justice for wire fraud, false statements, and conspiracy to commit money laundering related charges. They funneled more than $3 million to donor funds to individual within KKK, Aryan Nations, National Socialist Party of America, which is the Nazi Party of the United States, and these were funneled through fictitious network. So they're shell organization to funnel it through. And they said, well, we're funding informants. Over $3 million in informants. But these people are not just informants, they're leaders. They're help organize different things, okay? Plus, why using shell companies? Plus, you're not FBI. Why are you funding, like, if we as a nonprofit, Living Stones, they're like, what'd you do with $3 million? Or we funded informants and like what's a nonprofit funding informants?
Exactly.
What are you guys trying to do? Like how is that effective in ending racism by you funding informants?
Well, this got very, very personal for me because back when I first heard about them, I was going out to Washington, D.C. on at least a yearly basis, and we were part of a pastor's event that Tony Perkins and Family Research Council hosted. And then we'd have some meetings at the Family Research Council building where various speakers would address the pastors. It was really, really great. But what happened is one of these guys who goes on the SPLC website and finds out, Family Research Council is a hate organization. They hate gays. They hate this group. They hate that group. None of which was true. But he got his information from that site. He came into the FRC building with a gun, shot the guard. In fact, the guard got shot in the arm, but he tackled him to the ground, and he was able to be arrested and apprehended. But his plan was to go through the entire FRC complex and to kill every employee. If it hadn't been for this courageous, bodyguard there at the door to stop it, who knows what would have happened? And the other thing that was the irony of this, is the sickness of this, is he had a whole sack of Chick-fil-A sandwiches because Chick-fil-A was identifying, as a conservative Christian organization, and they were also a hate organization. So he was going to kill these people and then shove a Chick-fil-A sandwich in their dead bodies' mouths. So this is kind of sick stuff that this group was actually festering because of their ridiculous, hate crime designation. And it's these unstable people like this that take that kind of information, and then they're the ones that go out and do, crazy things. So anyway, I'm grateful that we're finally starting to see some of this come to light, because, this was a direct attack on Christians. It was a direct attack on what we believe, our Christian worldview, and trying to silence, again, people of faith. Imagine this. A family research council, a hate organization, focus on the family, and because they promote a biblical understanding of family, a hate organization. Just crazy.
I think what irks me is it's a power play based on bullying. It's about bullying. Like you said, they designate you as a hate organization, and then they bully everyone who supports you, all your business affiliates. And
it's
they
like
just
mafia.
Bully. It's legal mob tactics.
Yep.
And now we're realizing, you guys are the fireman who's setting with the arsonist at the same time.
Yep.
And that's what the evidence. Still got to go to trial, but the evidence is pointing in that direction.
Well, and so it leads, again, to a lot of violence. And we've talked in previous podcasts about how the Democrats have become the party of violence. I thought this was interesting. I suppose, it's a cartoon, but there's so much truth here. Guns don't kill people. Democrats do. And I have no problem clearly identifying the fact that the Democratic Party has embraced all of the violence that we're now seeing manifest. This is what Charlie Kirk wrote. This was kind of a repost. Obviously, Charlie's with the Lord, so this is a repost of something that he shared before he was murdered. He said, assassination culture is spreading on the left. 48% of liberals say it would be at least somewhat justified to murder Elon Musk. 55% said the same about Donald Trump. In California, activists are naming ballot measures after Luigi Mangione. He, of course, was the young man that murdered an insurance executive in cold blood, shot him in the back.
Yeah.
The left is being whipped into a violent frenzy. Any setback, whether losing an election or losing a court case, justifies maximally violent response. This is the natural outgrowth of the left-wing protest culture tolerating violence and mayhem for years on end. The cowardice of local prosecutors and school officials have turned the left into a ticking time bomb. A lot there. But when you have almost 50% of your movement that says political violence is justified on some occasions, that's a scary place to be. And, of course, we saw that just played out again with the third now assassination attempt on our president just this last week. Your thoughts on the growing violence? And, again, I thought it was interesting. I'm watching Scott Jennings, and I love watching him just slice and dice the CNN liberal wackos. But as soon as we start talking about political violence, the left starts saying, hey, it's on both sides, it's on both sides. And then our response is, where? Give me an example of our side that's actually going out and hurting people, killing people, shooting people, attacking people, whatever, slandering people. Where's that happening? Where is all the violent rhetoric on the right? And I would say that to our listeners, like, send it in, text us, all right, so we can find out where that's coming from. This is a phenomenon on the left, and it's getting worse and worse and worse. No president has ever had 3 assassination attempts on their life in the history of America.
Well, for me, the greatest evidence for that is when Charlie Kirk was assassinated. You have a young father to 2 young kids with a young wife getting assassinated. and all the left on social media is celebrate. Celebrate.
Yeah,
I mean, again, like there's no greater evidence than that piece. What you're addressing is when the assassination attempt on the White House Correspondents Association dinner in the Hilton, the guy who charged, I only saw a video of him charging through security with guns.
Yeah.
His name is Cole Thomas Allen. If you look through his background, he's highly educated. I think he has a master's degree in computer science from Caltech.
Yeah.
Now, you don't get Caltech is very, very difficult. I mean, you're getting a perfect score on the SAT to get into Caltech. Highly educated. It seems to come from a very stable, healthy family. I mean, I don't really know.
Let me pause there, because what we're finding out, to your point about the highly educated, this kind of goes back to the Nazi Germany thing. People were going, how is it that the German elite, the ones that are the most highly educated, that are from the upper crust of society, they're the ones perpetrating these horrific crimes against the Jewish people. And what we're finding out is a correlation between the higher your level of education in our public universities, where they're poisoning your mind with critical race theory and all this kind of stuff. The higher the amount of education, the more likely you are to justify political violence, which just shows you, when we're talking about morality, education has nothing to do with one's character or morality. You can be a highly educated serial killer, which is the kind of people we're graduating today. Isn't it amazing, too? I notice how many of the folks that are responding with the cheers are public school teachers.
Well, I believe Allen was a teacher at
he was awarded teacher of the year.
So it's interesting. I was reading about a person posting about this. He mentioned some type of mindset. I forgot the name of the mindset. But the mindset is basically a lot of people who are really good at something. We see this in athletes. We see it in Hollywood actor, actress. When they're really good at something, they're very elite in one area. That elitism translates to other areas. So, for example, they're really great at playing basketball. Yep. And they think, man, because everyone worships them because they play basketball really well. They think my elitism must translate to my view on religion, translate to my view on politics.
Right.
Because that elitism just translates. Even though it's totally not true. You could be a great basketball player and terrible parent.
Right.
But that pride just kind of carries you through. So that's what happens a lot of times with elitists at a certain area, because people worship them, people praise them their whole life, and there's no self-awareness, there's no true humility. They're like, well, obviously if my view on computer science or whatever it is so much better than everyone else, I'm smarter than everyone else. Yeah. Obviously, my view on the world, my view on politics, my view on what's right and what's wrong must also be elite. So that actually makes them more dangerous and less susceptible to reality and outside their own echo chamber.
Don't we see this in Hollywood all the time? So you got somebody that made a movie and made a lot of money, and now they're the moral expert, or they're going to speak into whatever other cultural issues going on, as if they know anything about it. Yeah. Same thing with the sports athletes, Yeah. But this guy, again, as you pointed out, teacher, donated to Kamala Harris, member of the Wide Awakes, attended a No Kings protest, rabid leftist post on Blue Sky, and then he writes an antitrust manifesto, to which the media say the motive is unknown at this time, which is, again, if you don't hate the media already, we're giving more and more examples of why you should. It was just crazy to me to see even former President Obama starts off with this. Although we don't yet have the details about the motives behind last night's shooting at the White House Correspondents' Dinner, it's incumbent upon all of us to reject the idea that violence has any place in our democracy, blah, 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 blah. This is the same guy that on June 13th, 2008 said, if they bring a knife to the fight, we bring a gun. That was then Senator Obama's comment. But Obama's style is intentional, because instead of stating the obvious, you see a guy run in, he has a manifesto that's already public. He clearly states he's going to kill Trump, he's going to kill the whole cabinet, and then he starts going down the line on the other people who might actually accidentally be shot. But the reason behind this rampage is because he He cannot allow it's this false sense of justice. It's perverted social justice, not biblical justice. He says Trump's a pedophile, Trump's a rapist, and basically I cannot continue to go on knowing that this vile, human being is leading our country. Well, Trump's not a pedophile. He's not a racist, but that's what the media, or rapist rather, or racist. But that's what the media has perpetuated now for how many years? And so he uses that one false premise to justify taking the law into his hands and really actually acting like a fascist himself, because this is the way fascists act. And again, just praise God that our president was not harmed or anybody in that room. It's just a miracle. But we're seeing more and more of this, and we continue to have the left play like dumb, like they don't know why this is happening, or making these really lame, empty, hollow statements like political violence has no place, while we continue to use political violence speech to stir all this up.
Did you watch any of the different social media posts of journalists hiding under the tables and talking to their camera and their phones? Did you watch any of those?
I didn't see
there's
some.
one Wolf Blitzer who was really, really close to the shooting when it happened, and he was like in the bathroom later, and he's kind of shaken up talking about it, And
I saw some of the folks that acted like it was no big deal. In fact, they were stealing bottles of wine or whatever they had on the table.
One guy was just eating calm.
Yeah. It's like, just another day in the park, right?
But there are others who were hiding under, they were told to go under the tables.
Right,
I get
right.
it. But I just thought, man, for some of these journalists, for them to say, it's easy to type words on a computer screen. But when you actually got to get engaged in the battle of politics and literal guns and bullets, it's a whole other story. So I don't know if that's going to affect some of these journalists at all and how they think about, the consequence of their words at all. Because they were kind of within the line of fire in that case. They got to feel a little bit of that.
Yeah, and you hope that it like stirred them up a little bit and like a reality check.
I can't just type whatever I want. Like there's consequences to my words.
But some of them were just like, okay, we're leaving this party. We're going to go to the other party that's scheduled tonight, and just another day in the neighborhood. Anyway, I thought this was interesting too. From Jack Wass. He says, Cole Allen, the shooter in the attempted assassination of President Trump, has been consistently referred to as someone who is sick, as a person who's mentally ill. And he says he's not sick and he's not mentally ill. Neither of these are true. He is evil, which is a far different thing. Based on his belief system that justifies assassination, from his twisted perspective, he felt justified to plow in there and just start firing away. This guy, as we pointed out, he's not mentally ill. He's very, very bright. In fact, he just got accepted into one of the hardest schools in the country and got a degree from that school. But again, this goes back to a biblical worldview. The left does not have a worldview that actually recognizes the existence of evil, or that there's fallen human nature, or that there's sin. So anytime anybody does anything, out of the ordinary or harmful or violent, the only label they have is mentally ill. And that's a whole travesty of justice again, because if the person's mentally ill, we really can't lock them up in prison or give them a life sentence because they're mentally ill. And so we let these people back out on the streets again, and then innocent people get hurt again because we can't identify the fact that, no, this person is not mentally ill. They're morally depraved. They're corrupt. They're evil. Their behavior is evil. There's no sense of responsibility, which again is a biblical principle. You don't blame society for the fact that you went out and shot somebody. It's not your mom's fault, your dad's fault. It's not anybody's fault. It's your fault. You pulled the trigger. The left doesn't have that worldview. And so we have these judges, source-appointed judges, that just keep releasing criminals with a rap sheet a mile long onto the streets because they have no category to actually believe that they're perpetrating evil. It's like the same idea we have with Hamas or ISIS. If we just go love these people and we maybe give them jobs or whatever, or we fight global warming, these people can be our best friends. They don't understand that these people really hate you, and they have an ideology that tells them to hate you, and we're never going to get along with them, ever, as long as they continue to embrace that ideology. So we have this growing Islamic threat as well, and it all comes from really a warped worldview. We don't understand origins, and we don't understand the purpose of why we're here, and we don't understand the problems, and we don't understand what the solutions are because we got a bad worldview. And so we just keep seeing this cycle of innocent people being hurt over and over and over again. So it's going to be interesting to see where it goes from here. The other thing that's incredibly frustrating, and you and I were chatting about it just before we got on this recording, but it's the fact that the Democrats continue to shut down the DHS funding and the Secret Service funding. And so imagine this, the Secret Service agents that are there to protect the President of the United States of America. I can't think of a more important person that you would be wanting to protect. They're there basically volunteering their time because they're not getting paid. They're there as unpaid staff to protect the President of the United States. I mean, this kind of stuff just really, really irks me, especially in an election year, that we have someone like Hakeem Jeffries who's saying the things that he's saying and continuing to stir the pot, talking about being like full on, using warfare language, encouraging people to keep, take our battle to the streets, which again is what we saw when we burned down all these cities and saw all the violence that we did. I mean, this is a problem that's squarely on the shoulders of the left, and we need to hold them accountable for it in the voting booths. And we have a chance to do that, in a few days here.
Well, the Democrats are hell-bent on winning the midterms.
Absolutely.
They almost have to, So I think their back is against the wall. We saw what happened in Virginia, twisting a unconstitutional redistricting amendment, trying to push it through the pass, barely passing. And even though the governor promised not to do it, so I mean they're going all out on this on November in 2026. So we'll see what happens.
Speaker Johnson mentioned the Department of Homeland Security is the third largest department of the federal government with 10 agencies beneath it. All of them are tasked with keeping Americans safe. So this is a very, very vulnerable time, and we should be outraged. And maybe this will help get some leverage to get these folks to actually do what's right and to fund this. Because again, our president and his administration is very vulnerable right now, and God forbid anything happens to them. I just got to say one other thing. We only have a couple more minutes left. I'm very, very excited, to see that we've got two of our own members who are running for Indiana Senate. We have Trevor DeVries and we have Jay Starkey. Both of them are running against Senate members who voted against redistricting. And we tried to share what's at stake here on a previous podcast. But what gets me is, when I ran for office twice, I expected the Democrats to lie about me. Imagine I had no voting record, so there's no record they could attack. I'm a pastor, so I've been trying to love people and grow people and help people all my life. So how are they going to go after me? Well, they made up a couple of ridiculous lies about me that, again, if I were a private citizen and somebody slandered me like that, I could have sued their pants off. But I expect that from Democrats because they have no principles. They have all that they care about is getting elected and getting in power. But what irks me is I've been receiving some mailings basically accusing these guys of receiving all this secret dark money from Washington, D.C. Yeah. The source that was quoted was none other than MSN, which is the most liberal, wacko news outlet. That was the source that was quoted. But what hurts is when your own party attacks you. Your own party slanders you. And that's what we're seeing happening right now as the Indiana Senate is doing whatever they can to slander some really good people who just happen to believe differently about what should have been done on that redistricting. So I'm excited, number one, that we're seeing some good people raised up in churches, which should be happening all over America. That's where we should see great candidates being cultivated, encouraged, and envisioned to run as a calling. I'm excited about that, but I'm also excited about the fact that we need to bring about change in our Indiana government that's supposed to be a supermajority of Republicans, but they don't govern that way. So things are getting shaken up, and I'm glad we've got two really, really good men who are running really good and clean races and working very, very hard, to get the message out. Both of these guys work during the day. They get off, and I know how this goes because I've done it. you walk and you knock on doors and you meet people until the sun goes down. Then you come home and you gobble down some food and you crash and you get to sleep and you get it and you do it all over again until election day. So I really want to encourage everybody who listens to this podcast, make sure you get out and vote. Make sure you know who it is you're voting for and make sure you know what they stand for. But unless we see some change in government, we get the same product over and over again. And what disturbs me is the short-sightedness of not realizing that other states like Virginia, Illinois, other places have horrifically gerrymandered their state to secure, votes.
Power.
Exactly. And here's what I don't want to see. I don't want to see a Democrat majority again in the House or the Senate that's going to shut down the president's agenda. And it's not only going to shut it down, but it's going to throw frivolous lawsuits, the lawfare that we saw happen, try to impeach him for God only knows what. But I don't want to see him have to go through more of that harassment again from a Democratic Party that's become Marxist and progressive in nature and doesn't look like your grandma's Democratic Party. These folks are dangerous, and what they're doing is dangerous to all of us, not just to our president. So get out there and vote.
I thought it was interesting because I get those mailers too, and I'm like, they make it look like Trevor and Jay are like secret agents from Russia or something like that.
Yeah,
like
being controlled by.
I'm like, I know those guys. They're like regular. They're like out in the parking lot greeting people. They're like normal guys, just like who want to represent their community,
raising families, hardworking people.
Yeah, I know their kids. It just cracks me up.
I guess what I'm talking about, civility is long gone. That's what the larger issue we're talking about on all of these things is there's no sense of public civility where we can actually have honest discourse about ideas. The left just demonizes you, and then they attack you, and they destroy you, and they say whatever they need to say about you to get people to question your integrity or whatever. But you don't expect it in Indiana, and you certainly don't expect it from your own party. And so what I'm still scratching my head about is if you're a Republican, why do you not support your Republican president? If you're a Republican, why do you not support your Republican governor? I mean, this is just unheard of. You should be getting behind, for instance, the president who received the backing of the majority of Americans. Get behind your president and his agenda. That's how he got elected. Get behind your governor and his agenda. But for some reason, our Republican senators haven't got the memo on that yet, and it's a conundrum to me. So I hope some of them pay, and I hope we get some of them removed this time around.
Supermajority doesn't really mean that much. Sometimes it leads to complacency. It leads, they have different incentives from regular people. You have a supermajority, you have control. What does that mean at that point? I mean, is your incentives fundraising? Is your incentives to be the opposition party so you can raise more funds? And these are the things that you always have to consider. We assume we have a supermajority, we should do all the right, pass the right laws, do all the right things. That's not how human nature works. No. So that's why sometimes fresh blood is good to keep people on their toes. Absolutely. Don't be complacent.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I just want to honor everybody that's getting out and doing that and being involved because, again, we're talking about all the negative side of what you're walking into. But I tell you this, the reason we're saying all of this is because it highlights the fact, again, that you cannot ignore government. Government is ordained by God. Government should be something Christians are involved in, Christians are supporting, Christians are aware of, Christians are speaking into, because ideas have consequences, and bad governments with bad ideas have terrible consequences. And I pray we remember the pain we lived under not too many years ago under the previous administration. So anyway, thank you guys for watching. Also want to encourage you to tune in to our Sunday services, which are also online. We talk about a lot of these things and what God's doing here at Living Stones. We'd love for you to be a part of that. And I know some of you are watching that don't attend Living Stones, but maybe you appreciate this ministry. Maybe you appreciate this podcast. I'd really love to encourage you to prayerfully consider a pledge to help us get that building resurrected. In fact, you'll be pleased to know one of the spaces in that new facility is going to be a new area for the podcast. And so we'll be able to come out with even better material, better podcast, better quality, better product. And I know Matthew's very excited about that. I'm excited about that. And I think you are too, Pastor Andrew. So anyway, it's going to be good. So anyway, thank you for your support. We'll look forward to seeing you guys next Thursday.